Welcome to Viewpoints. I'm Heather Isvaron, and with me today is Rich Serino, Deputy Administrator for FEMA. Welcome, Rich.
Good morning.
So tell me what your priorities are there.
Well, it's coming to FEMA, as you know, coming from a city background after being in Boston for 35 and a half years, coming to Washington has been somewhat different. And the priorities are, pretty much in lockstep with the Administrator, Craig Fugate's priorities. And the first priority for us is to be prepared to respond to the next disaster. And I think that that's important, but also enable to support the citizens and the first responders to be there for them. And I think those are the absolute two priorities that we have to maintain. That is one of the most important things that we're going to be doing.
And, I notice the folks who are in leadership positions there pretty much are all from state and local backgrounds.
Yeah, it's different from what I understand in Washington, coming from, like I say, local background. Craig is from the state of Florida. He was the emergency manager in Florida. He was also a paramedic. I was a paramedic as well. And Tim Manning, Deputy Administrator for NPD. He is also, from a state as well. So it's actually a great mix of people. And then working with all the people who have been there for a while that understand the federal system. So it's really developing a great team of people. And that's what I'm thrilled about, is it's such a good team. And we're going to continue to build that team. And that team is going to include, everybody within FEMA, but also taking and looking at our other federal partners as being part of the team. And I think that's what's different is FEMA is not the team. We're just a part of the team, and bringing together not only our federal, but our state and our local teammates, looking at the tribal governments and really bringing everybody in together. And I think that that's absolutely key as we develop that team and looking at who we can get as well, and working with the businesses, private ventures, is how we can get them to be part of the team, so we're not duplicating efforts, working with the local faith-based communities, NGOs. They're all part of the team. And probably the most important part of the team is the public. And looking at the public is not a liability at all, but actually being part of the team and part of the solution, and really engaging the public in a much different way than we have before.
And I understand you're traveling around the country. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. One of the things I said that I was looking at that I wanted to do early on, and now it's been 3 months, and visiting all the regions. FEMA has regions, as people know, all over the country, and visiting all 10 regions. So far I've done 7. I'll have 8 done by tomorrow. In the next 2 weeks we'll have visited all 10 regions. And with that, I actually go out, and when I visit the regions, and as well as the FEMA has 10 different buildings in the National Capital Region, visiting those as well, and meeting the employees, the people who do the job, because the employees at FEMA are our most valuable asset, and really getting people to be proud to wear the FEMA shirt, and proud to be part of FEMA. And that's one thing I think is really important. And when I go to the regions and hold an all-hands meeting and everybody comes together and just sort of share some thoughts, and I really speak briefly. But then after that, what I want to do is, when I go out there, I talk to them and ask them at the all-hands meeting 2 questions. Why do they love working for FEMA? What brought them to FEMA? And the second question is, if they could improve or fix one thing, what would it be? And how would they do that? And then I don't want people answering the question in a big group. I walk around to everybody's office or cube, or if they work in the garage, wherever they work, and then meet with them and talk to them in the workplace. And I think that that's important. And in the first, when I did the first 5 regions in the first 2 months, I got some great suggestions and ideas from folks that we're actually already been able to implement.
Can you give me some examples?
One of the things that people were looking at is how we, hire folks, and that's a big issue. And there was a couple of major problems in how we have to look at that, but also some very simple, specific things that we could look at, and changes just on some forms that we're able to do, but also look at how we can, how we have people graded, and we're looking at changing some of that process as well. And we're also looking to bring interns in, and want to bring in and look at emergency management as a career, not a second career. for folks, and we want to look at how we can bring in new, young, energetic folks with the more experience. Some say older, I say more experienced folks, and how to have people mentor. And we've seen some great examples in some of the regions where they have a great mentorship program, and we're taking that. In fact, somebody I just met in Seattle in Region 10, we're actually bringing them to Washington next week of how they're doing a certain internship program and how we're going to take that and hopefully take that throughout the agency.
What are some of the challenges that you see over the next 2 to 5 years for FEMA?
Well, I think some of the challenges is really being ready for the next disaster is always going to be a challenge for us. But I also think as we continue to move forward is for people what the expectations of FEMA are and what FEMA is not. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges as we move forward, to let people know who we are and, more importantly, what we are not, and how we can engage more members of the team as we continue to move forward. And I think those are some of the challenges, but also I think they're some of the greatest opportunities for us.
And I think those are important messages. What would you say FEMA is not?
FEMA is not going to come in and really take over. FEMA is going to be there to support the state and the locals. We're going to come in and at their request and be able to be there to help them and help them with expertise, with equipment, with what we have. We're going to be able to do that. And what we are not the ones who are going to come in and be all to everyone. I think we have to look at what our resources are, working with our private business members of the team to see how, if we're going to set up food distribution points in a parking lot of a Safeway, well, that may not make too much sense. Maybe we should help get the business back up and running and then put our resources where people who really need the help are, and it's probably in some of the poorer socioeconomic areas. So that really means that people who have the ability to be ready and be prepared, that they do that and they take that seriously and are able to do that and continue to work with the public.
And what would you say the most common public misconceptions are? I mean, you were talking about more of the partners in the business and the state and local folks, but what about the citizens?
I think the citizens are not sure what FEMA is. A lot of people hear the old things of FEMA and different things, and really not sure what FEMA is. And one thing that I found interesting as I was going through, and again, fairly new at FEMA, and one of the briefings is that people told me is that people who actually deal with FEMA on a direct one-to-one basis, we have over a 93% satisfaction rate with the public that we serve, which blew me away. And so when people interact with FEMA on a one-on-one basis and use FEMA services or deal with FEMA employees, they're very satisfied. And I think that's something that surprised me. And I think that's important that we figure out how to get that message out, that FEMA is made up of some great people, and we're going to be there ready to respond to the next emergency.
Great. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.